Hello everyone, and as always, welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about eating disorder recovery and everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food, and with movement. And today's video is going to be a little bit different from the rest of my videos, and I just want to kind of give you a little TED talk, a little bit of tough love, because I know how many people are watching and they might be contemplating recovery, they might be thinking about recovery, or they might have started to make some changes and they're like, well, I'm not eating as little as I used to, I'm not having as many behaviors as I'm used to or as I did in the past. And so the eating disorder is kind of lying to them and telling them, well, you're already doing better, you already did something. Or sometimes people might even think that they are recovered already, and then when we look into it, they're really not. And this is not to blame anyone. Trust me, I have been there. There were so many times where I thought to myself, oh, eventually I'm going to recover. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. When I'm done with college, I'm going to start recovery. When I'm moving to America, I'm going to start recovery. And actually, that's what I did. But now that I'm fully recovered, I really wish that I would have started earlier. And I did have one or two recovery attempts before, even though for the most part, I really didn't even want to try recovery. I just was so comfortable in my eating disorder and in all the behaviors and the structure and everything it gave me. And I just want to be fully honest about it. I just did not make that decision. And I did have conversations with family members that were begging me, that were crying because they were so afraid of losing me. And I cried too. And I was like, yeah, I just don't know what to do. And I just really don't know how to get out of here, when in fact, I actually knew what to do. I just didn't really want to. Even though I thought I wanted to, but if I wanted to, I would have done it way earlier. And again, I'm not trying to call out anyone. I am not trying to make it seem like it's easy, because I'm very, very, very aware that eating disorders oftentimes come with a lot of other things, and that they serve a purpose, and that they come sometimes with comorbidities, with trauma, with other mental illnesses. Sometimes they might make it even easier to live with those things. I'm very aware of that. But if you are watching right now and you are telling yourself, well, I want to live a life without an eating disorder. I know, I'm thinking about being able to go out to eat, being able to travel, being able to, not circle around food all the time anymore. Then this is for you. Because I know that you want. I wanted to, but I didn't want to make the changes that were necessary. Because even though it can be completely overwhelming, and when it comes to starting recovery, you oftentimes don't even know where to start, because eating disorders just take over so many parts of life. And this is why it's more than fine to seek out help. Whatever feels right for you. I'm not trying to sell you anything, please. If it's a dietitian, if it's a therapist, if it's a coach, if it's a clinic, whatever feels right for you. But please make sure that you're actually getting started. Because I was one of those people that kept on watching recovery videos, and I listened to so many recovery podcasts. In fact, I actually listened to some of the people that I interviewed on this channel. And now, I'm on the other side. But I used to listen to those podcasts about recovery while I was walking around in the city and trying to collect my steps, while I was engaging in eating disorder behaviors. Isn't that crazy? And I know that a lot of people do. A lot of people are consuming a lot of recovery content, and they think about it, and they're just kind of waiting for that one video or that one podcast episode to click. Maybe I just need to wait until somebody says the one thing that it's going to make a change, and all of a sudden I'm going to be motivated. I'm going to tell you the ugly truth. Even if you are motivated at one point, that motivation will leave. And I know it sounds super harsh, but it's just a fact. That's why I always say you cannot rely on your motivation. Even if you are so fed up with your eating disorder and you don't want to do it anymore, and you're really, really so keen on recovering, there will come a point where it will feel wrong, where you want to go back, where you made a little change and then you freaked out and the anxiety spiked or the OCD spiked. Because again, I'm very aware that for a lot of people, there are a lot of other things that play a part, which is why it is so important to get adequate help. And maybe you might even need a team. Maybe you have a therapist with who you can work on OCD and on, those things, on trauma or whatever else it is. And then you have a coach that helps you to work on the behaviors and on the underlying beliefs. And then you have a dietitian that helps you to really face those fear foods. Oftentimes coaches can do that too, or like sometimes therapists can do that too. But I'm just saying, whatever feels right for you is totally fine. But please step into action. Because the one big thing, and I'm asking all of my clients that at the end of our work together, when a client decides to step down, when a client says like, hey, I don't need this anymore, which to be honest is always an amazing situation, because as much as I hate, closing off with a client, because I truly, really love all of my clients, this is what I want. I don't want them to rely on me for the rest of your life. I don't want them to need me, because I want them to recover. So when I ask them, what do you regret most? Maybe about your eating disorder, about recovery. In 9 out of 10 cases, the answer is that I didn't start earlier. And I have a lot of clients who said, in the beginning, it was horrible. It felt like a mistake. It felt like I want to go back. It felt like I did make the biggest mistake of my life. And for some people, that can last quite a while. For myself, that lasted quite a while. 2 years or so into recovery, I still felt that way because things just took so long to get better. Again, I'm not saying all of this to make you feel worse or, to beat yourself up. This is not what I'm trying to do at all. But I need you to be honest with yourself. And I know that a lot of people are watching right now that are not fully honest with themselves, because you know what you would need to do. You know which behaviors you would need to stop, or at least some of them. Oftentimes within the work, there's more that comes up. When I first moved to New York, and there was also started my recovery and started to work with a coach and started to increase my intake and to decrease my movement, very, very, very quickly. Like there was a short amount of time in the beginning where, the honeymoon phase kicked in and there was, oh my God, I can finally eat and this is amazing. And then very quickly things went very downhill. And I remember my dad visited me at the time and I was just crying to him, like, how big I had gotten and how, I just can't do this. And my dad always had a really good way of talking to me about those things. And I just remember he looked at me and he was like, I think it was really hard for him to understand that I saw myself so big, because I really did. I just could not perceive my own reflection realistically. And that was just based on the fact that I had made some subtle changes. And so, of course, my brain was freaking out and my eating disorder told me that I had doubled in size already, which I did eventually in my recovery, just full transparency here. But I also survived that. And my dad was just like, well, okay, if you want to die, if you want to, continue living your life like this and waste your life and then die, waste your education, waste all the great relationships you have, waste all the talents that you have, which of course were all things that I couldn't see in the moment. Well, the relationships, yes, but the rest of it, I didn't really felt that worthy. And it frustrated me so much because I felt like you are not even seeing my pain. You don't even see how hard this is. But to be honest, he was completely right. And I recently stumbled across some of those pictures and I just saw that depressed, sick person in the pictures. And I was like, how the heck could I not see what was going on? And I also just said, I gained a lot of weight in recovery. And I'm very honest about this, not because I want to scare anyone, but because for some people that will happen. For some people, that is necessary. My body gained so much more weight than I would have ever expected. And of course, than I would have wanted. Because at one point, I was like, okay, if I'm not being underweight anymore, at least I'm going to be, maybe on the cusp to underweight. And I had all those numbers in my head. And my body just had other plans. My body was just like, no, F that. We're just going to do what we're going to do. And now looking back at it, I'm just so grateful. Because I know that my body did exactly what it needed to do in order to survive and to repair and to recover. I don't think that I could have fully recovered the way that I did if I had suppressed my weight like this. In fact, I know that I couldn't. I needed to let go of all of that. I needed for my body to take control. And I needed to push through the extremely hard time of overshoot weight, which was mentally, but also physically really hard. Because my body was not feeling great. And again, first of all, every person's story is different. And some people might have another way and another story, and that's totally fine. But what I'm trying to say is that I'm so grateful that I pushed through that time. And a couple of years ago, before I started recovery, had you asked me, I would have said no. I would rather die. The world is going to end. The sky is going to fall down on me. I will not survive this. There is no way that I can do this. Like, I was so convinced, like, I would have bet millions of dollars for that. And this is not because I'm anything special or stronger or no. I've seen it times and times again. I've seen it in clients all the time. And these are the people that still do it. And I'm telling you one thing. Once you get to the other side and once you get to the point where you really can let go of the eating disorder and you don't need it anymore, you're going to be so freaking proud of yourself for doing that. And it's just one thing that I can always look back on. I recently had some really, really tough times. And I just kept reminding myself, remember what you pushed through before. Remember what you did before. And again, this is not because I am something special. This goes out to everyone who ever decided to fight their eating disorder. Because you don't need to be on the other side to be worthy and to be strong. Every single person of you, everyone who's even thinking about it, you got it in you and you're strong enough because you're already thinking about it. But you have to take the steps. You have to start. And that's the most important part. I know this video was a little bit different than the rest of my videos on this channel. And again, I'm not trying to offend anyone. I just needed to be very honest about this. And I really hope that the right person will see it. Because if it only touches one of you guys, I did my job today. Have a great rest of your week and I'll see you in the next one.